Welcome back to my episode 7 or maybe 8 of Tiny Tidy Tuesday. Today I am working very quickly to get this rack in my kitchen cleared out and reorganized. I don't want to have food here except for maybe honey and a few spices. Is salt considered a spice? I guess so. Anyway, it's directly next to the oven. Welcome to Tiny Tidy Tuesday, an open playlist collab run by Sunday Dawn over at The Helpful Home. Stop by and check out the playlists. Now, you guys don't normally see my kitchen. This rack does sort of act two-sided. It is sort of an end table, side table next to my chair in the living room. But anyway, so that's why the two befores. But you guys don't normally see my kitchen because we started a kitchen remodel probably more than 5 years ago, and y'all, I'm indecisive. And I knew on some things and not others, so it has been very slow going. I have a sink on my table, and before that it was in my living room. And before you ask why I didn't just use the IKEA kitchen planner or something like that, I still have a bit of PTSD from their sustainability audits when I worked in HR. And so you won't find that brand in my house at all. Instead, my kitchen renovation started off as my wanting to open things up and randomly dismantling the upper cabinets between the kitchen and the living room. Loving it. And then demoing the bottom ones, sort of with no plan. And then that's why I wound up with these racks. And then the uppers across the kitchen were a bit more planned, so I could get open shelves and put those in. And that was actually after I had switched from a full-size fridge to 2 mini fridges, so I could have like a under-counter fridge that didn't cost $4,000. But anywho. So we do actually have a lot of cabinet makers and cabinet shops in this town because trailers and RVs are made here. But installing cabinets is heavy and could probably use more hands than I have. And the cost to install kitchen cabinets is way out of my budget. And well, they didn't really function terribly well before, so it didn't really make sense to just get new ones. So anyway, my stopgap measure was to buy these racks, and I was seeing in people's pantries and canning storage pictures, back then it was probably on Pinterest rather than YouTube, and make something I could use for storage and counter space in the places I need it. And I can link to the type of rack down below, but when I went back to look, I could only find the one that is 24 inches deep instead of 18 inches deep. These, I believe, are 18 by 36 and 72 inches tall, which I think is 6 foot. And the ones in the shed are just a bit deeper. Now, I have added like 18-inch square, is it vinyl tile? To these, so they are wipeable and stuff. That is not the particle board shelves. And on the shelf that we use as a countertop, I've double stacked the actual shelf pieces so that it actually sticks up above the little rails. And I have used some of these, like in the shed I didn't stack them, so it's like 2 counter height sections, and then I have a couple other counter height sections that had been together that we used as an island for a while. And you actually might see part of those later. But over the years, I've realized I actually have been working towards a freestanding kitchen. I just didn't know that was a name or a term. It wasn't anything anybody had ever told me about. And I heard it for the first time about 6 months ago. But you basically add in unattached cabinets and fixtures, and they can be moved around and reconfigured as needed. And a normal style kitchen where a cabinet maker installs cabinets or cupboards attached to the walls, those are fitted kitchens. I suppose there's probably more types of kitchens, but that was a revelation to me. So, anywho, back to this project. I had some seeds spill, and I've had some food over here that kind of the stuff you'd add into soups or whatever at the last minute, that wasn't necessarily planned, but like the freeze-dried or dehydrated carrots and that kind of thing. But I was watching Erica Lucas the last couple of weeks talking about zoning her kitchen, and I realized that A, this is not a great area to store food, and B, if I want to get this to more of a sort of a chef kitchen feel, I need to have clear zones. When I worked at the kitchens at the casino, we had different kitchens for different things, and you found different stuff in each area based on what got used there. And as I've been working on the dishes project with Dana's daily tasks, I think I can put a card up to my last week's video where I explained what I'm doing there. But the zones have actually been sort of emerging more. If there are dirty dishes sitting between the stove and sink, we can do the cutting. If there aren't dirty dishes sitting between the stove and sink, we can do the cutting and chopping for stuff going into supper there instead of across the room on the chest freezer. Cooking stuff should sort of more be on this side of the kitchen. Baking stuff food-wise is across the kitchen, but we also tend to work, in case you guys haven't guessed, we use our chest freezer as counter space too. We do that stuff on top of the chest freezer. The cooking stuff, like I said, should be on this side. The baking food stuff has its own section. And we tend to work on the freezer for that. But baking dishes are also used for meal prep and food preparation quite frequently. My pantry and food stuff are generally more over on what is actually half of the island. We used to have and around the corner. But the pantry overall is on that side of the room. So it wouldn't be hard, I don't think, to find things there. Who knows? I feel like my pantry zones are maybe better defined than my kitchen zones, and maybe in a few weeks you'll see me moving all this back. But I don't know. Right now, I just want to kind of get it more, not organized. I'm still working on paring things down, and I want things to make sense in terms of where you look for them. And I want them to be easy to find. So like these Huggies wipes containers that I use to store stuff in, those are my seed storage. Not my seed storage, my capsuling machine storage. It basically keeps dust and grease and dirt and stuff off. And then of course I've got the canning lids, and the other one is like these, like the old library things, like when they were dating a thing in the book. But I use those for writing recipes on and that sort of thing. So that's why I put those towards the back. That way I can reach them from my chair, where I have been doing more menu planning type stuff. And then I will eventually get these boxes washed. I promise. They've been washed a few times. They also tend to be grabbed with messy hands and stuff, depending on what I'm doing. And obviously they were washed out well before I ever started using them, because they did, 15 years ago get used for baby wipes. But these, we don't actually can a lot. If you guys know, I've got histamine intolerance, and so that doesn't really work well. But we do use them to store things, so we still need lids and stuff like that. And then the mixing bowls, so we can have them there handy and easy to grab. I don't know if this stuff will stay this way. The kind of idea is this rack is going to contain our sort of hot drink stuff. And that way it's all together. I'll see you guys next week.